63% of new audits as of summer 2023 targeted taxpayers with income of less than $200,000.
Yeah.
We knew that was the case when the Biden administration said, 86,000 new IRS agents?
Yeah,
They don't need
exactly.
86,000 IRS agents for the 10,000 millionaires that exist in this country.
For everybody.
It's for the rest of you. It's because they don't like the fact that you paid your cleaners in cash. They don't like the fact that you gave your buddy $100 because he helped you move one day. Hey, man, that's taxable income right there. And they're going to hunt you down and they're going to extract every penny. Because here's the thing. They don't want to go after the rich people. That was never the plan. When the IRS audits a billionaire, he throws a chunk of $1 million at a lawyer and says, deal with it. Tell me what I owe. The lawyers push back, they argue, they go back and forth, and the IRS goes, oh, it's so annoying. So annoying. The IRS knows, hey man, the real money is not getting one big investment. The real money is attacking the weak who can't fight back. So what is the IRS doing? The IRS knows that if they send you a letter in the mail that says you owe us $100, what are you going to do about it? You're going to hire a lawyer? Yeah, right. They know that you're going to sit there and say it is cheaper to pay the money. That's lawfare, effectively. 86,000 IRS agents. This is what it's for, to tax the poor. And that's what, and you know what? I wonder if that's the real game. Think about how much money they can make if they go after the ultra wealthy. They can't make that much.
Not much.
You get $1 million from 1,000 people. Congratulations, you got $1 billion. Is that really going to cover the cost? No, we give more than that in a week to Ukraine. I don't know, literally a week. What are they going to do? They send out a horde of 86,000 IRS agents nickel and diming you at every turn. Oh, that's going to be a massive budget surplus for them. And then they can start dumping that into their failed systems and maybe prop up Social Security for a few more years.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, isn't the solution already here? It's Bitcoin is the future world reserve currency. Maybe
that's the point. Or maybe that's the look. I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin hits $1 million a coin or more.
Absolutely.
There will be fighting about that.
About
whether or not Bitcoin will be the world reserve currency. Like whether if it happens, it might possibly happen. I'm not saying that it's not possible, but the government will fight that. The United States government will absolutely fight that.
They probably won't be alone in that.
Like here's the issue with Bitcoin. 21 million coins is the max, and there's substantially more human beings who need to trade. Assuming Bitcoin does reach global ubiquity, what's the total global buying power? Like, what's the total global GDP? Push that into Bitcoin. And maybe that's unfair to say total global GDP, but maybe it's even 10%. Maybe this becomes the world reserve currency for basic transactions. Other currencies, of course, still exist and trade against Bitcoin, but Bitcoin becomes the principal. That means one Bitcoin could be $100 million or more.
Easy.
If there's only 21 million. And then people are doing trades. Now, I do think in order for Bitcoin, I think its point of pure viability and stabilization is going to be when the lowest denomination of a Bitcoin is comparable to maybe a quarter or a dollar in U.S. terms. Yeah. Or theoretically a penny. If then we could say like 100 sats, as people would say, is $1.
Right.
But a dollar today is fairly weak. The reason is if the lowest denomination of a Bitcoin is equal to like an ounce of gold, you can't trade with it. So it would not have ubiquitous usage or universal usage. If the lowest value of a Bitcoin is comparable to maybe either a penny or a quarter, then you're talking about 10 sats, they call it, and you buy yourself a cheeseburger. That's a unit of exchange people could easily handle. And that means that cheeseburger today could be $10 theoretically, or like I'm talking like a good restaurant cheeseburger, and like a McDonald's burger can be like $1 or even $2. That means one Bitcoin would be what, 100 million? I think $100 million. I
think so, yeah.
If one Satoshi, the lowest point of a Bitcoin is 1 cent, then one Bitcoin is $1 million. So here's why I think it's possible. For all the people who aren't crypto nerds and don't care, this one matters. I remember 10 years ago, I remember 15 years ago, Alex Jones was talking about how they want a one world currency. They're going to make the Amero, everybody. And then these pictures of the Amero were going around, and there was like Canada, Mexico, and the United States would have a united currency, and that never happened. But Alex was right about the Real ID. I remember that. He was talking about Real ID well before it happened. Now you have to have it.
Yep.
So here's the ultimate con, right? How do you get people to adopt a one world currency when they're resistant and fighting and they don't want it? And as soon as you start talking about a shared currency between an economic bloc like North America, you get people like Alex Jones ranting about it. Everyone's upset. You trick them into doing it. It was the anarchists, the libertarians, who adopted Bitcoin first and then started celebrating and cheering it on. And now we have a fully trackable, international, digital, public unit of value on the internet. I think Bitcoin's great. I have a good amount of Bitcoin, but I would not be surprised if in the end it turned out the deep state made Bitcoin on purpose, because now they can publicly track all of your transactions. Everything you do on it will be publicly available to them. No more cash, and you will be cheering it on as you switch from hard to digital currency.
It makes me wonder if we'll get this weird offset of people who go back to bartering. They're like, I will only give you actual goods for actual goods.
Well, there will always be gold and things like this. Mm-hmm. But I'll just put it this way. Assuming there really is some deep, global liberal economic order conspiracy that they want Bitcoin, then Bitcoin's going to be worth billions. Like a single Bitcoin is going to be worth an insane amount of money, if that's true. Not saying it is. I don't know. Maybe Bitcoin really is the salvation of breaking the Federal Reserve and creating a universal standard or something.
Yeah, I think to that point, Bitcoin will outlast the existing fiat-based currencies. So basically, it's like a black hole, like Max Kaiser's always saying, that the fiat currencies are being sucked into it because they are already doomed via not being attached to anything and via the governments having, well, ultimately it's private, but the private entities that really, print the money are basically printing themselves into oblivion. Every fiat currency goes to zero. And so with something that has such a strong logic and mathematics behind it, like there's no way that it can lose. I think that certain entities probably want to have a share to try to sway it and control it, like the entities that have come in via the ETFs. But I don't think they're going to be able to control it.
No, I don't think it can be controlled.
Right.
That's the power of it and why it's valuable.
Yeah.
But it can certainly be tracked. And using, they've already done this.
Right.
They've been able to associate, they took someone's address for Bitcoin,
Right.
looked at the coins that went into it, and then were able to track every coin and where it went.
Right.
They mapped out networks of political ideology from it. Kind of scary.
Ooh, I do not like that at all.
Yep.
That's the trade-off, is the semi-private, right? So it can't be totally private. There's a semi-private with the public ledger, but at the same time, like, if this is an invention that's intended to store value and energy over the next 100 years, then it's going to outlive even the people alive today and probably the governments that exist today.
I think that's an interesting point, though, that fiat always goes to zero. Right. And that's true. I love it. There's this meme of like $1 in 1913 versus $1 today. And it's this massive stack, just huge. Like, what is it, like 1,000 something or more? Like the exponential failings of the dollar, it's become toilet paper compared to where it used to be. They had half pennies back in the day. Remember those? What was it, like 1700s or whatever? They had half pennies because you needed a smaller denomination for certain transactions.
Didn't just under the Biden regime, isn't inflation up some crazy, like 10%, 20% in the last 3 years? It's some crazy amount in the last 3 years. Like the purchasing power of the dollar is like down some crazy
Look
amount.
at this, the half cent from... what is it? The smallest denomination of United States coin ever minted, 1793 to 1857. The half cent. Imagine that. We don't even want pennies anymore.
Yeah,
Everyone's trying to get rid of them.
They say they're too expensive to make and nobody uses them.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
1/2 cent.
You could
how the
just
dollar's
sell your
fallen.
pennies to like meth heads that like crush it up and then go sell it for the copper. It's worth more than a penny.
I've
Is
got
that true,
a
like nickels or something?
So here's the crazy thing. I've got a US dollar from I think 1893. And it's worth I think like $250 as like a collector's item.
Right.
It can actually be traded in the US as a single dollar.
Yep.
Because it's still currency. I also have a $500 bill that's worth like $3,500, which as a collector's item is worth, you can actually still go to a bank and exchange it for 5 single $100 bills. It's still currency. The funny thing about that dollar is it may be worth $250, but in 1893, it was probably substantially more than $250. Like the value of the dollar, the buying power of the dollar back then is greater than the collectible nature of the dollar right now.
A dollar in 1913 had the buying power of $31.55.
Wow.
Okay, so maybe I'm wrong then. The $1893 probably wasn't worth as much.
That was 1913, so maybe I'm not sure what 18.
I don't think 20 years prior was worth that much more. Things were a bit more stable before the Federal Reserve.
What year was it? 18 what?
1893.
93. Let's see.
Pre-Federal Reserve. Then they had, remember silver certificates and gold certificates?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They say that. Yeah, it wasn't that much more. It was 35
okay.
bucks.
So it's worth a lot more. Oh, there you go. I'll take it.
Well, and then FDR confiscated gold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what do you think happens then in 2034 when Social Security starts collapsing?
I think the dollar goes up. I think the dollar goes up. I think that, the dollar loses its value, and we see significant attempts to try and print our way out of it because there's not a whole lot that they can do. So
So that means Gen Xers, right? 2034. No, it's going to be. Well, what's retirement age? What is it? 67?
65.
65.
Yeah.
So in 10, 12 years, so it's going to be 13 years from now, and you're Gen X. You're 48. So this is right around retirement age for you.
Yep.
And you ain't got nothing.
Well, I'm not getting. I'm not expecting to get anything out of it.
I just mean like for your generation.
It will be interesting for the first class of retirees that are like, sorry, we don't have anything. I mean, what is that going to look like? Like you said, maybe they'll just start being like, you get half your benefits. We're going to try and get it from somewhere else. But, this is something I remember always hearing all the time, which is that, when I was entering the workforce, when I was going through high school and stuff, they're like, well, you'll never see Social Security. Like, it will just not be there. But you still have to pay for it. You have to join us all in paying for it, like a time-honored American tradition. And I think that level of sort of fallacy, to go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, like, no wonder we have a generation that's just looking for sort of dopamine hits through fast scrolling. Everything around them appears to be crumbling. I wouldn't want to look around either.
I just imagine, it's back in like 1913, and these people setting up the Federal Reserve, they're just like, I've got a great idea. We'll borrow from the future. We will borrow against our kids.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. And that's what they're doing. The way our entire economy is set up is that the older generations are borrowing from the younger generations. And that's like, honestly, that's what Social Security is. Young people are paying into Social Security, and old people receive Social Security checks. Now, here's the best part. It's not just the money's going to run out, the people are going to run out.
Yeah, I was going to say, we borrowed against the future, but then we stopped producing a future, and we're like, whoever's left, you guys pay for it.
Maybe that's why they're desperately flooding the country with illegal immigrants, hoping they'll create a tax base that will fund Social Security before it implodes and blows up the global economy.
They're not participating in taxes the same way a native-born American would. I think that should be obvious to everyone. I mean, it's this crazy thing where instead of encouraging people to have families, finding ways to make it easier, encouraging strong family values, they're like, you guys are the worst, and we're just going to replace you with other people who live in fear of us because they don't have legal status.
Well,
sounds great.
Learn how to raise chickens, how to farm. Chickens are great. Cows are based. There's a farm nearby where their property includes a creek, and it's the coolest thing ever when you're driving past, and the cows are just in the water, chilling, and I'm just so jealous of those cows. I mean, not the part where they get killed in 2 years, but the part where they get to walk around, eating whatever they want, rolling around in the water.
And like
just
an idyllic, beautiful area,
I know. It's like a short life, but a beautiful life. I don't really envy that, but just to have that farm fresh day with fresh grass and the sunlight on your large cow body.
Well, and they never live a day without purpose, like they're always working towards their ultimate goal, which
eating
is
grass
to become, food, which is kind of interesting,
to become
right?
Food.
I mean, maybe they don't get to choose their purpose in life, but do any of us?
I mean, they're living the life, man. When we drive past and there's that creek and they're just standing in the water and they're drinking from it and they look up, I'm like, that's bliss. And it's only bliss because they don't know their meat. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.